Okay, in this section, we're going to install the 4 controls for the pilot and passenger: the cyclic, the collective, throttle, and the anti-torque pedals. Now, when installing these controls, it's very important that you maintain a smooth movement through their range of travel. For example, in the cyclic and the collective and throttle. This is very important because it avoids over-controlling for new pilots. In addition, in this section, we're going to take the seat back and the floor pan and take it in and out a couple times. So let's get started.
Refer to the Construction Manual, Section 10, for components and prints. As an option, the cyclic sticks can be shortened for pilot comfort and chrome-plated or painted. After checking pilot comfort, measure 2 3/8 inches up from the end of the cyclic stick and drill a 1/4 inch hole and elongate the hole a 1/2 inch long. Deburr the hole with a file or deburr tool. Do the same for the passenger stick. This hole will be used to route wires from the avionics. Both cyclic handles have rocker switches that can later be wired for the transceiver and intercom. To position the cyclic handle on the cyclic stick correctly, the top end of the cyclic stick should extend a 1/2 inch past the bolt hole in the aluminum sleeve in the handle. Drill the 3/16 inch hole in the stick and deburr the hole. Install the passenger handle. On the pilot handle, install the start button and switch cover. The material will have to be countersunk slightly for the switch to fit. Use 2 3/32 inch rivets to secure the switch cover in place. Route 2 leads through the stick and out the access hole. Be sure to use heat shrink where the wires pass through the opening to prevent the wires from shorting out. Drill a 3/16 inch hole through the center of the clevis opening, 1/2 inch below the top edge. Note, sometimes the 7/8 inch hole is not exactly centered in the castings. Using template E14-2, cut out and drill the holes in the 4 push-pull control T. Note, verify the 1 1/4 inch measurement before drilling holes. Before installing the cyclic cross shaft, the front landing gear attachment bolts must be torqued. In addition, the seat back should be installed with all 6 bolts tightened. To cut the cyclic shaft to the correct length, install the nylon and aluminum bushings in the pilot side of the cross shaft. Install the aluminum and nylon bushings in the cyclic control brackets on the airframe and secure with the 5/16 inch bolt on the passenger side. Position the cross shaft and mark the length to cut on the passenger end by holding it next to the pivot bushings. Cut the end of the cross shaft for a snug fit. Use a tubing cutter with a sharp new cutting wheel for a nice square cut. Referring to the construction print, it shows that the cyclic clevis bushings are cut to 1 7/16 of an inch long. That's typical. It may be less for your installation. Make sure that there is at least 7/32 of a bushing remaining past the tube, and both sides are equal in length. Open the 2 bushings using a small bit, then a letter D drill. Final size the hole with a letter D reamer. Be sure the ends of the bushings are square to the hole opening. Use a bolt to check the squareness. When installed, the nylon clevis bushings will be snug against the shaft bushing and the large fender washer must be close, but not touching the clevis. Position the clevis on the cyclic shaft and install the 1/4 inch bolt. Fender washers on the other nylon bushing that holds the clevis to the shaft. Do not over-tighten. The clevis must not bind through its range of travel. On final assembly, apply grease to the bolts and bushings. Install the cyclic cross shaft in the airframe. Grease the aluminum bushings. Install the cyclic boot on the stick. Some pilots prefer the cyclic handle and stick to be slightly canted or rotated in the clevis to minimize wrist fatigue. Now install the cyclic stick in the clevis so the hole for the wires just clears the top of the clevis. Be sure the clevis and stick are in the correct orientation. It's probably best to drill from both sides, then use a reamer to final size the hole. After drilling the hole, use a deburr tool to remove any burrs. Use a 3/16" reamer to final size the holes and install the bolts. Fit and install the dual lateral shaft as shown in the construction print. Adjust the rod ends so the cyclic sticks are parallel. Note: it's good practice to use a fender washer on the outside of a rod as shown here. In the unlikely event of a rod end failure, the fender washer would prevent the spherical ball from separating from the raceway. Install the all-thread lateral stop bolts and jam nuts. Level the helicopter laterally and set the range of travel to 52 degrees. Locate and drill the holes for the fore-aft all-thread bolts. Install the bolts. Level the helicopter fore and aft and set the range to 52 degrees. The bolts threads are secured in the aluminum bushings with blue thread locker and are safety wired. The aluminum bushings will be riveted to the airframe brackets with 2 steel rivets. Install the fore-aft control cable in the airframe bracket as shown. Install the control T that you fabricated earlier with the supplied hardware. Install the male rod end in the T with its jam nut and washer. The construction print shows the hole center for the cyclic fore-aft cable bracket should be between 13 to 15/16 of an inch from the control shaft. Do not drill the hole at this time. The hole location can be determined after verification later when the drive system is finally installed and the cyclic cables are attached to the swash plate. This will be shown in section 11. Install the lateral cyclic control cables in the shaft bracket as shown with their lock nuts. Install the control T and male rod end. Route the lateral cyclic cable as shown to prevent kinking and interference with the gas tank and rotating parts. Install the cushion loop clamps on the 1-inch airframe support tube on the passenger side as shown. Wrap one clamp around the cables and the other around the tube, joining them together with a 3/16" bolt. Route the cyclic fore and aft cables as shown. Temporarily suspend the cables with a wire tie as shown. Collective control system. Locate the following components. Reference construction prints. Install the aluminum and nylon bushings in the collective mounting brackets. With the seat back installed, verify the position of the openings for the collective sticks. Try and set the collective cross shaft so the pilot stick is off-center and as close to the inside wall of the channel as possible. This will allow more hand clearance on the throttle while in the pocket. Trim and fit the passenger side first. With seat back removed, mark and cut the other end for a snug fit. If necessary, bushings can be shortened slightly to fit in the ends of the cross tube. The openings in the seat back should be as small as possible without limiting the range of the collective. This is the pilot's throttle handle, end plug, throttle shaft, and roll pin. Referring to the construction print, assemble pieces and drill the 1/8 inch hole and install the roll pin. Drill and install the two 1/8 by 1/4 inch steel pop rivets. Use caution when drilling the rivet holes so your drill bit doesn't contact the roll pin. Deburr the inside diameter and install the nylon throttle shaft bushings in the pilot's collective stick as shown. Drill the 1/4 inch hole in the 2B control arms. Note: deburr and use a 3/8 inch reamer to size the hole in the control arms for a smooth fit. Install the throttle shaft into the stick. Make sure to install a 3/8 inch washer at both ends of the shaft as shown. Install the B control arm on the throttle shaft and mark and drill the 3/16 inch hole to attach the control arm to the shaft. Builder tooltip and procedure for drilling the holes. Use a center-it jig V-block to drill a 1/8 inch pilot hole in the throttle shaft. Use a piece of aluminum angle to shim the 3/8 inch throttle shaft. Remove the V-block and clamp a small vise to the drill press table. Using the shaft as a guide, align the drill as shown. Now place the control arm in position per your mark and pass the drill through the casting. Open the hole to 3/16 inches and final size the hole with a reamer. Cut the shaft to extend 3/4 inches past the control arm as shown. This allows a stop on the throttle connector shaft. On final assembly, place a film of grease on the shaft. Install the bolt as shown so that the head of the bolt is toward the throttle stop. Note: an easy way to install or remove the rubber grip is to use an air nozzle to blow air into the small hole in the end of the grip. Do not cut off the excess rubber from the grip. This helps put some friction in the system so that the pilot may at times remove his hand from the collective without the throttle rolling off. Cut a slot in the H control as shown here. Place the control arms H and B on the transfer shaft. Position and angle the arms as shown in the construction print. Referring to the construction print, the two B control arms should be 90 to 95 degrees apart. The shaft should extend 3/4 inches past the control arms as shown. Drill the 3/16-inch holes that attach the control arms to the shaft and install the bolts. Follow the procedure as shown earlier. Install the nylon shaft bearings into the cross shaft weldment. Install the transfer shaft along with 3/8-inch washers into the bushings. Locate and drill the 1/8-inch holes for the roll pins. Install as shown. To install the passenger's collective control stick, refer to the construction print. The passenger's throttle grip sleeve weldment needs a small notch to be filed out. File an opening 3/8 by 1/8 inches as per the print, so that when the bolt is tightened to hold the sleeve to the control stick hub, it will clamp and hold fast. Drill the 1/4-inch bolt hole in the tabs, 1 1/2 inches for the end of the tab and 5/16 inches from this end as shown. Install the nylon shaft bushings as shown. When installing the other bushing, be careful not to tap in too far and break off the collar of the bushing. A good way to prevent this is to measure the distance to the inside sleeve. Note this measurement and install the bushing. Drill a 1/8-inch hole 5/16 inches from the end of the passenger's throttle shaft weldment sleeve as shown. With a cutting wheel, cut each side of the end to the 1/8-inch hole to create a slot in the throttle shaft sleeve as shown. Install a 3/8-inch washer on the shaft and install the shaft into the passenger's stick weldment with 3/8 inches on the other end. Fit the throttle grip sleeve and end plug over the shaft and mark the throttle shaft to be cut flush with the end plug. Drill the 1/8-inch hole and install the roll pin. Drill the 1/8-inch holes and install the 1/8-inch steel rivets. Install the rubber throttle grip. Mate the passenger stick weldment with the control stick stub and make sure the notched sleeve of the stick weldment engages correctly with the roll pin on the control stick stub. Then tighten the bolt as shown. Note, on final assembly, the bushings and mating parts will be greased. Loctite the bolts, safety wire the bolts, and the aluminum bushings will be riveted to the brackets. This is the throttle connector shaft weldment. Tap this end with a 1/4 inch by 28 threads per inch tap, 3/4 of an inch deep. This end is already tapped by Rotorway. Install the 1/4 inch male rod ends with a jam nut and washers. Install the throttle connector shaft on the B control arms. As in all manually controlled helicopters, power is added by rolling the throttle outward and closed by rolling the throttle inward. Adjust the rod ends and throttle stops to achieve a minimum of 143 degrees throttle roll at full down collective. Fabricate a template as shown in the construction manual. With the throttle fully closed, the control arm B on the pilot side should be 17 to 18 degrees with reference to the collective cross shaft. This shows the fully open throttle stops. They both should make contact at the same time. This shows the fully closed throttle stop passenger side. They both should make contact at the same time. Check this area and make sure the B-control arm does not interfere with the throttle connector shaft. Use washers or a spacer bushing. Sometimes you may need a longer bolt. Install the collective assembly in the airframe. Install the seat back to the airframe. The total collective stick travel should be approximately 16 inches. Note, you'll locate, drill, and bolt the G-casting later in Section 11. Open the seatback holes as necessary for a full collective travel. We will install the throttle cable when the engine is installed. Locate the following components. Reference construction prints. Note, the pedal cross shaft was fitted in Section 8, Body Installation. With template E16-1 and E16-2, cut out and drill the holes for the scissor beams. This is the exploded view of the directional controls. Assemble the two nylon scissor beam pivot bushings and the aluminum bushing to the scissor beam as per the construction print for both pilot and passenger. Note, the aluminum bushing must extend approximately 10 thousandths through both nylon bushings so that the beam will pivot on the aluminum bushing and not the bolt. As per the construction print, drill the 1/4-inch bolt hole in each of the 4 pedal castings as shown. Cut the pedals and fit for pilot comfort. If you're a tall pilot, shorten the pedals as shown. You may also place optional holes for adjustments of the pedal position. Fit the pedal weldments to the castings. Use a steel rod with a slit cut in one end. Slide a piece of sandpaper in it and deburr the inside wall of the casting as shown. Polish the pedal weldment shaft and check the fit. Install the pedal weldments and pedal castings and drill the 3/16-inch hole that holds the pedal weldment to the casting. Locate this hole 3/8 inches from the rear of the casting. After locating the hole, use a drill press with clamps and drill on assembly. Final hole size is 3/16 of an inch. Install the 1/4-inch male and female rod ends and jam nut. Normal setup is thread all the way in and back off on half turn. The male rod end may need to be shortened to obtain the desired angle of the pedals. Apply grease on the mating parts and the scissor beams before installing on the airframe bracket. Important: be sure and install the bushings in the correct orientation as per the construction print. The aluminum bushing must be at the bottom. Install both scissor beams to the airframe with 1/4-inch bolts. Check that the beams are pivoting freely. Fit the pedal castings to the cross shaft. Note, polish the cross shaft and deburr the pedal castings as shown for a smooth fit. Note, the pedals must have a smooth fit on the cross shaft to avoid any friction that could lead to over-controlling or even loss of control from binding. On final assembly, when installing the spacers, the cross shaft should be coated with grease for lubrication and corrosion protection. Install the cross shaft tube with pedal castings. Connect the scissor beams to the pedal casting using the rods and install the bolts as shown. Install the stop bolts and their jam nuts with washers on the airframe brackets. Install the directional control cable in the bracket. You'll have to remove the dust cap to push the cable through the hole in the bracket. The cable housing should show just one thread on the forward nut when secured for the correct setup. Attach the rod end to the cable and bolt it to the scissor beam. Do not place a washer on the head of this bolt, as the bolt could interfere with the airframe tube. Move the scissor beam to the end of travel in the cable on the pilot side. This is full left pedal. Set the stop bolt so it makes contact with the scissor beam. Now move the scissor beam to the other end of travel and set the stop bolt. When the scissor beam moves from one stop to the other, the cable should travel a total of 2 7/8 inches. Also check that when the scissor beam is at the center of travel, it should be close to parallel with the front cross tube of the airframe. Position the pedal castings on the shaft for best alignment of the rod ends between the castings and the scissor beams. The distance between the pedal castings must be held at 2 3/8 inches. Make 2 foot pedal spacers from the supplied part number E16-3110. Note, when cutting these spacers, you must be sure the ends are square to the openings. Install these 2 spacers between the pedal castings and remove the foot pedal weldments as shown. Note, you can cut holes in the floor pan for the foot pedals, provided the final fastener holes for your seat back and floor pan have been determined.